And it was just I probably should edit this out. What is happening, art family? I'm Taylor Payton, and for those of you who are new to the beginner drawing course, I am pretty much the sole video maker, art person, channel runner, lesson dude here. I am making this video today because it is a Q&A that you guys were so kind to help me make. I've received questions and I will now be answering them. Some of them are in regards to drawing, in which I will have demonstrations, and some of them are not in regards to drawing, but I will probably have demonstrations anyway because I like to draw. Let's get to it. Alright, so our first question comes from Wondrous Perspectives, and they say you have a really interesting background. What got you into the arts and what kept you motivated to keep going? Thank you for the question, Wondrous Perspectives. I will say that what got me into art was basically games, cartoons, and anime. I got some of them up on the screen right now if you guys are interested in some of the first stuff I really dug as a kid. What keeps me motivated is to continue to learn, grow, and express myself at higher levels, and to showcase all the fundamentals that the masters have given us of drawing and painting, and to help others learn those as well, because that's when it all clicked for me. So, Paul Durando asks, do you play D&D? If so, what's your favorite race/class? Okay, so for this one, I want to say thanks, Paul, for the awesome question. And here's a demonstration, here's a demo drawing of my character, Barl Goodmanson. I really used to play D&D a lot. When I was in college, it was 3.5, right around the time before 4.0 came out. And I played a half-elf rogue who later kind of dipped into the spell slinging type things, a little more hybrid with magic. I don't think I subclassed, or not multi-class? I don't remember. That's how long it's been since I've played D&D. Basically, my rogue was all about flavor. I was not good at speccing for max damage or efficacy as far as your character goes. I was really more interested in just having fun, hanging out with friends, doing, funny stuff, having an interesting time. I was never a sincere player, like reading through the rule book and having a ton of knowledge that was DM-esque. Dungeon Master, for those of you guys who've never played D&D, the person who runs the game. But it was a lot of fun. Mostly I like to throw knives and shoot bows and stab stuff in the back and hide. I like the hit and run play style. It was really fun. I remember one of my character quirks as Barl Goodmanson was when he would get too drunk at whatever inn we were at or whatever tavern we were crashing for the night. I would always have to go outside to use the bathroom, and he would deliberately find mushrooms growing somewhere and have to pee on them. This would always get a lot of laughs from the table. The DM enjoyed it. Everybody liked it. I would come up with scenarios wherein, they would this is probably TMI, like they'd be like different shapes of mushrooms, and he would pee on top of them and get like the cup to fill up of like a mushroom cup, or he would pee on it so hard, like forcefully, that he would break the cap off. And it was just I probably should edit this out. So yes, my favorite when I did play D&D, albeit not very seriously, was a half-elf because of all the bonuses that went into being a rogue, and mostly a rogue that specialized in daggers, sneak attacking, and throwing knives. So next question we have is from Iqbal Firdaus. Hope I'm saying that right. First, they really like the channel. Thank you. Second, do I work in an industry or something else, because they need advice on working in the industry? I would say I work in the gaming industry for the most part. I do a lot of work for startups that are, trying to get funded on a Kickstarter, or they already have enough funding to pay an artist. And it's a really sweet niche. There's an interesting amount of competition, but it's not overly crowded like the stuff people usually vie for and, burn out for. And it works for me. I enjoy it. And if you want to work in any industry, the best advice I can give is to find the mixture between your own authentic voice in art, your own authentic stuff, and the stuff that people actually want or need. So if you already like to paint and draw in a style that is really commensurate, which is another way of saying that's really in alignment with Magic the Gathering, for example, so cite one that people know, then it's, really a lot of competition, but you may enjoy working on it because your stuff already looks like it. It's the style you're going for. Whatever sort of thing that you want to express, you basically have to find a way to tie that to the job. So maybe it's a lot of very South Korean looking concept art, and you go, well, what studios are they working for? And then you kind of find those studios, dig up some names, maybe talk to the artists if they speak your language, and then kind of get in good with people who are already there. Basically, you can do fan art of their characters, provide value to them in some way, just ask if you can talk. Some of them are nice. And, don't bug people, but send follow-ups. And if you really want it, you'll eventually forge a connection that opens the door for you, in essence. For me, I've always been I'm kind of a loner. I really have a hard time being told what to do for too long. That's why I usually work for about 3 months, take about a month off, 2 months off, work for another 2 or 3 months, and just try to get the most money as I possibly can in that time, and then try to find ways to invest it that net me more money, or I work on creating things that make me money even while I'm sleeping. So I think about it more as an overall holistic business, because I don't just enjoy drawing. There's other things I want to do. I want to get more into writing. I do a lot of music that I've cultivated as a skill over the past 3.5 years. So for me, I'm kind of a special case, I would say, in some ways. If you want super direct industry advice, I would find people who are working for the studios that you want to work for, who have the style that is pretty close to yours or the style you're vying for, and see who is paying them, and maybe talk to them, and talk to the artists as well. Just really get into the human connection part of it, and don't be such a weird loner like me. So this next one comes from Chris. They saying, congrats on the 20K subs. Thank you, Chris. I hope your success continues. Me too. That'd be really nice. I would really like that. If you're looking for questions, here's one. When art teachers and professionals talk about pushing a pose, what exactly does that mean artistically and mechanically speaking? Okay, so quick demo time, guys. Basically, when people are talking about pushing a pose artistically and mechanically, let's say you have your basic standing pose guide here. We're just going to do a stick figure because it's fast. It's just like chilling, there's really not a whole lot going on. It's very concept art or about the design type pose. If you want to actually push this pose mechanically, we're talking about the mechanisms of the human body, so what it can do for one. And if something is just standing there, it's not really pushed at all. So, for example, if this is weak and they're like, you need to push this pose, then if somebody gave me that feedback, I would say, okay, well, that means show more character and create something that has more, not only mechanical interest, but more artistic interest. So as far as pushing a pose, you could say, I'll change the color real quick. Go from something, pretty bland and mundane to, you could switch the angle up for one. So if we use this axis instead, then you could have one hand, maybe on the hip, just sassy or whatever. And then you could have one leg kind of kicked out and the other leg supporting the weight. And then the other arm on the hip, for example, which is weird from this particular axis, so we wouldn't, but it could be more to the side, so you keep that part of it hanging down there. And then you basically have a figure that the pose is a little more pushed. It's more interesting. The axis of the shoulders and hips are tilted in a more appealing capacity, and you have something that artistically feels more balanced and weighted. If you have a more dynamic pose that they want pushed artistically, let's say, that means you could stylize it way harder, even considering the mechanical elements. So if you have, let's say a jumping pose, where it's you just kind of have a jump, like a jumping stick figure. Really, poses are whatever, once you can just throw these shapes down and get an idea of what you want to do. So here's a stick figure just jumping. If someone's like, you need to push this pose, this isn't good enough, I would say, all right, well, what about this am I really trying to convey? What is the meaning behind this sort of jump? Is it like are they jumping off a cliff? Or what is the story behind it? And how can I make this feel more artistic? And what can I use in terms of the mechanisms of the body to make this a more interesting pose? So when I see this, both arms up in the air, both legs very symmetrical, I would say, okay, instead, let's keep the angle, because it's not a bad angle. Let's push the spine first and curve it a little harder. So we're going to be seeing more of the glutes, and we can, by proxy, know that the legs are going to be thrown up even further. We can still keep the symmetry of the pose if we want, which means that both legs are going to be doing a very similar thing, from side A and side B. Otherwise, the asymmetry would probably be one way to push this pose too. So let's say that you kind of go with the symmetrical one and you're like, well, that's still not quite pushed enough. This is closer, but not quite. Then I would make the head again. I would throw the spine way up this time, even higher. So we're looking at like the lower back, and that transitions into the core. And then I would throw this leg, get some room here. I'll throw this leg way up. It's asymmetrical now. So the front leg is still the same. The back leg is going pretty high. And then the arms, let's make those asymmetrical as well. They're jumping, falling, This is way more dynamic because it's got more diagonals. It's got less symmetry in the pose, so it's going to be more dynamic by proxy. And now you have somebody who looks like they're falling in a different way, and it's way more interesting, versus like this kind of kid-like Geronimo pose, and then maybe pushing the spine didn't work quite enough on this, so we kept everything symmetrical, mechanically speaking. So we go with asymmetry, and we see that somebody is closer to falling, or you could even tilt the drawing like this. And if I take away those lines of motion, then it looks like, like a sick skateboard trick. Like, yeah, bro, throw out that disgusting pop shove it. And then you've pushed your pose. All right, next question, or a couple questions, come from Random Fluffers. Awesome name, awesome icon. Thank you for the questions, Random Fluffers. How'd you get your start in art? What inspired you to pursue this as a career? I got my start in art when my dad sat down with me to draw a bunch of Pokemon that I had collected from I think it was Beckett Pokemon Collector magazines, and he was drawing them way better than me, and I was like 8, and I got a little bit jealous, but also inspired, and I was like, I'm going to draw better than my dad. And then that just carried me into drawing with all the kids at school, and eventually wanting to be an animator once I found Newgrounds.com. And then I went to school for animation in college after I'd been animating since I was about 15 years old. That really inspired me to pursue art as a career, was animation. But then I realized I wasn't as big of a fan of animation while in an animation program at college, and I switched to illustration and concept art because that gave me a bigger feeling, a bigger quest for mastery in a way. And even though I'm not as assiduous about the quest for mastery now, I still feel like it helped me bring my technical skills up a whole bunch more. So first paid gig, I have a treat for you guys. I have never shown these to anyone. This was probably the first paid real gig I can say, because they commissioned me several times for these characters. And boy, I hope you're ready. Yeah. Yep, take it all in. Let's get a little closer to this horribly artifacted JPEG that I found on the internet. So these are the galaxy stars, guys, and this is what somebody paid me to do when I was probably like, I want to say 19 or 20. I was not a talented artist. I really didn't understand fundamentals, but I got this far from just pushing myself and not hanging out with my friends and drawing a lot. These are the characters that they commissioned me to do. I want to say it was like $80 a pop, and then they had me draw this sweet guy. Yeah. Yep. First thing I was commissioned to do that I can remember. All right, and the final question: how do you avoid comparing your art to someone who is far above your technical skill? For me, I don't. I compare myself to people who are way better than me because it helps me get better. And I used to be really, really, really emotionally involved in that process. And over time, I just learned to take the sting out by not comparing myself as a person, because that's when you get into the danger zone. I now just compare the technical attributes of things. So I really only think about what I'm doing on a technical level, like you said. So it's all about technique and how I can start to steal some of their techniques and make them my own. And then I'm in a better position. So for example, I'm just going to cite an artist that I look at every day on Instagram, and that's Karl Kopinski. And his stuff is just insane. He's an amazing, amazing draftsman. And the way he works with his lines and stuff are super fluid and really fun to watch. And his mark making is just glorious. And for me, I just don't compare in terms of like his career or his successes, because again, that's another danger zone. I just want to look at, how is he doing his anatomy? How is he doing his hands? How is he handling this particular material, and how can that aid me in what I'm trying to do? But the problem is you have to be clear on what you're trying to do and how looking at somebody else's stuff can help you achieve that. But just don't compare yourself. Like it's an apples to oranges thing. Their upbringing was completely different. Maybe they're more privileged. Maybe they have way more free time and less responsibilities. Maybe they started really young. It just, there's a million and one ways to get upset comparing yourself. I've even heard, there's a quote, I don't remember who said it. I'm sure someone in the comments will correct me. Comparison is the thief of joy. When you're switching from comparing yourself to somebody on a personal and fundamental human level, which is nigh impossible, you couldn't find the best computer in the world to do that, so you're just going to make yourself upset. Just, again, steal their technique. Just look at their stuff and take the stuff you want. Is it the quality of line? Is it the way they handle their values? Is it how they understand color? That's the kind of thing that will allow you to ascend without putting yourself in a depressive spiral, because I can tell you that from experience. I put myself there way too many times. I was just a critical failure in some capacity because somebody was technically superior to me. Find the happy medium and just compare the basic technique. Strip away all the emotion. Don't get all up in your feelings, as they say, and just concern yourself mostly with how you can integrate their whatever makes them great into what you're doing. And if you can do that from a technical perspective, not a personal one, then by all means, gank the technique, get better, create what you want to create based on the comparison, but only insofar as wanting to understand the how. All right, so that was super fun, guys. I really appreciate you giving me all those questions. You can feel free to leave some in the description box of this video too, so that when I do the next edition of the Q&A, I'll be able to answer some questions, do some more drawings, and just have some more fun. Thank you for all the subscriptions, likes, those of you who get the courses. It all means the world to me, and I can't wait to catch you in the next video. Take care and happy drawing.